I'm joined now by Dr. Shazad Amin from the organisation MEND, which stands for Muslim Engagement and Development. Dr. Aziz, what is it about the Prevent strategy that you object to?
Thank you, Joe. It's Dr. Amin from MEND, yes. Well, basically, we object to Prevent because for several reasons, really. One is it simply has no evidence base to show that actually it is working. It's discriminatory. You are 8 times more likely to be referred to Prevent if you're a Muslim than non-Muslim. And it criminalizes normative Muslims' beliefs and practices. So, for example, we've had examples of children being referred to Prevent for watching Arabic news channels. And a man was referred to Prevent by talking about going to Saudi Arabia. So these are pretty major concerns, really. We basically don't oppose having counterterrorism strategies, but they should be evidence-based and intelligence-led and formulated with the support of the communities that are most likely to be impacted by them.
All right, well, let me just read to you what David Cameron actually says and argues, because he says, I'm not just talking about violent extremism. No one becomes a terrorist from a standing start. The warped narratives are what draw people in and pave the way for many to support or even commit terrible acts. Therefore, I believe those who refuse to challenge the falsehood surrounding Prevent are guilty of a form of passive tolerance, whereby society fails to interfere in minority communities for fear of appearing racist. Do you accept that?
Well, look, let's look at basically what this report actually says, yeah? I mean, this report basically only focuses on Muslim groups, and we reject the labels of Islamists and extremists. All this does, it serves to dissuade organizations from talking to us. Many organizations have been critical of Prevent. Let's look at some of them. Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester, for example. Now, is he a Islamist and extremist? The Home Affairs Select Committee has been critical of it. Several UN special rapporteurs, Open Society think tank, 140 academics from universities all over the country, including Oxford University, SOAS, Manchester. There's a whole
Dr. Amin,
No,
I understand that. But in principle, what is wrong with a government strategy that seeks to try and limit or seek out extremism before it becomes a real problem?
There is nothing wrong with
So why don't you engage? So why don't you engage with it?
Because basically it's not fit for purpose. I've outlined to you just now all the reasons why it is basically not fit for purpose, because there's no evidence base for it. I mean, for example, Ben Wallace, the security minister a couple of years ago, was asked about what is the government's evidence that Prevent or the Channel programme works. And he simply replied, 500 people have been through the programme. I think my evidence base is I do believe it's working. Now, that's simply not good enough. You can't just have government ministers saying, well, we believe it works, therefore it works.
But people might say, Dr. Amin, what's your evidence that it isn't working?
Well, basically, it's not for us to give that evidence. It's the government's policy, not our policy. Simply being critical of a government policy isn't evidence that you're an extremist or you support terrorism. We're simply articulating the views of a large section of the Muslim community and a whole number of professionals and academics across a number of organisations have said exactly the same thing.
Well, let's put some of your points.
Donate to MEND. Empower your community. Eradicate Islamophobia.